Good afternoon, Bruin fans, and welcome to another edition of Something Brewing with Coach Cook here in our third season, episode 5. Coach Cook, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Mark. How are you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, and it was definitely great here last week here to have a home game here when school is finally in session, and the game against Hickory. I mean, don't take Hickory lightly because boy, that first drive when they were down 7-0, they came right back down 77 yards. They were 3 yards away from getting the touchdown. We did stop them, but there in the first half, Hickory played us tough.
Absolutely. And, our most recent show we had, I mentioned that they were well coached. You could tell that, right? And they were a very scrappy, football team. So we did not go into this game feeling it will be just a walk in the park. We had to really improve in some things, and that's what a week of preparation gives you. But yeah, Hickory is going to be a team on the rise, without a doubt.
Yeah, and the thing is, there in that first quarter. I mean, with our long drive, staying in bounds, their long drive, and then our defense stood up. I mean, I think we took one snap of the second possession, and we were already going on the other side with the second quarter. Definitely a fast first half.
Yeah, very fast first half. I think both of us kept the ball on the ground in
Yeah.
our opening possessions, which with sustaining drives and taking care of the ball, you're going to have that, right? Our offensive line did a great job, against a pretty big front, and our backs did a phenomenal job by committee, holding on to the ball, running hard behind their pads, and eventually Kanye, bust one open. So
Yeah.
it's good to have him on our team, and very proud of his success. But yes, it was a run-oriented first quarter, without a doubt.
Right. And, let's talk about the second quarter. And, I know that punting yards never gets in the newspaper, never gets on social media there, especially in high school. But, I got to bring up that 60 plus yard punt because it definitely flipped the field. Our defense held. It gave our offense a short field, which led to a second touchdown. But when you talk about all three phases of the game, that punt was certainly a momentum shift there in the
Oh,
second quarter.
absolutely. And you got to celebrate those, and it's neat watching our kids react to hitting yardage like that, flipping the field, giving our defense an opportunity, to bow their neck a little bit and give Coach Black the opportunity to, dial up something that the defense just got to react and play fast, right? So without a doubt, Devin has been great for us for 2 years. Coach Jay and I have mentioned, in my coaching career and also in his, we've always had an athlete back there. That's a testament also to Coach Ed and Coach Ted seeing something great in Devin. We also have a guy that's right behind him, David Shiner. He's a senior but got a big leg, as well. So it's good to see that we have those type of young men that are very athletic, that can still carry out the duties of a difficult position in punting, because it's all about operation and time.
Yeah, yeah, and even with going to the locker room, 14-0, third quarter, Hickory was having the ball first. Our defense, stood the task. Continued the solid game that they played. And like I asked you at the post game, that second half, our offense had 4 possessions, 3 touchdowns. The fourth one was victory formation.
Yep, yep. Just awesome to see, right? And that's week to week success. That's not guaranteed that it's going to look the same, moving forward, but we're seeing progress. We're seeing players value the possession. And again, football, most victories are the team that creates the least amount of penalties, blown assignments, and ultimately does not turn the ball over, right? So those guys did a great job executing it. We are a very young offensive line, again, anchored by Aiden Lorson and Rayshawn Loban as the only two seniors. Everybody else are freshmen and sophomores, and they're learning each week as they go. So very pleased with how they came out. A little bit more physical this past week. Stayed on their blocks, drove their feet. You know, the little details that often get overlooked because most people just follow the ball instead of seeing how it set itself up. So, I'm very happy for those guys and the success that they had, and that's momentum that carried us into our bye week.
Right, and Riley Higgins, going 5 for 5
Yes,
in extra points, and I'm sorry, but that being successful on every point after is key because
yes.
it's definitely not not given. So all aspects definitely team oriented. Nice win.
100%, without a doubt. And that was my message. The kids had an option. We played Kingsport. It didn't work out the way we wanted it. So the option was we get better or we stay the same. And again, regardless of who you play, it's all about how you play to your standard. And to me, they raised that bar last Friday night.
Yes, and the last 2 seasons we've had a bye at the week 10 of the
Yes.
regular season. This year we got the bye. It's not smack dab in the middle, but after 4 overall games, and it's definitely a nice little break to practice hard and then get the ball rolling here with next Friday. It's going to
Right.
be just down the road at Nansen River.
Yes, absolutely. It takes some adjusting, though. For the last 3 years, we've had week 10. Now we're kind of dead center in the middle of our season, as next week will be our midway point. So just the body, the mind, trying to keep the guys engaged, but not put too much on them from a load has been a challenge. But we're making it through. Today's practice, I left up to the players. How do we want to practice our final day of this week? And they all chose to go full gear. And it's no pressure behind that, but we also want them to feel like every opportunity they have or had to be successful, we supported that. So, today's practice is going to be our final one for the week, but also a tune up to get ready going into next Monday's Nansemond River week.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's also here with a bye week coming off of a win, definitely nice here to give the give the kids a break
Yep.
here with tomorrow because, come Monday, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong until the state championship.
Absolutely. There's no more break, moving forward. And, our kids, we're sharing certain details that come with this long stretch that we have. It feels like after Friday night, it's a 15-game season, so we got 10 straight, if that makes sense, going into Friday night's contest. But we're taking it 1 week at a time. The biggest thing is really trying to keep guys healthy. We went into our first 3 games with some guys a little bruised up, little small injuries here or there, but we had to plug and play guys. And shout out to Joshua Simpson, a sophomore that had to fill in and compete at a high level for 2 straight weeks, give or take. So, we are very pleased that we have young men that want to help, want to be a part of, and he did nothing to hurt us. He got better every practice rep. He got better every game rep. And that's what we want to see. So our offensive line should be seasoned for the next 3 to 4 years, actually. With incoming freshmen that are currently varsity players as well. But ultimately, we're just focusing on finishing today on a high note and enjoying a 3-day weekend as a complete program, and then coming back Sunday evening, going into Monday. It's time to lock back in and get ready for Nansemond River.
Yes, and with with playing Hickory, especially with it being a home game, for us, it's definitely nice that since he doesn't live too far, but he still teaches at Hickory and is kind of like a consultant there with Hickory football. I walked into the stadium there with Coach Decker, and definitely always great to see him, especially when we're playing Hickory with him being a Bruin alum and someone else that played for Coach J.
Absolutely. I mean, he always looks like he's at home, which is awesome, man. It was that interaction was great, and just endorsement, as we mentioned in the previous show, and just being able to fellowship. He's a Bruin, 2-2, so they're always great to run into him. From time to time, he'll send a note, text, or inbox or whatever. So he's always around. He definitely, his spirit. So it was good to see him last Friday evening.
Yeah, I think Coach Brown, who was the head coach of Hickory, and I think he's a Hickory alum, but with walking into the stadium with Coach Decker, they were mentioning that the bus got a kick out of passing Coach Decker there on the sidewalk.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I mean, again, we've seen that for years, right?
Right.
For decades, not years. And he's very consistent. You know what it is. But always great to see him. I always beat the horn on the way out, whether it's a regular school day off season or summer conditioning in the morning. If he's out there, he's always gonna get recognized. But ultimately, again, just great to see a Bruin legend. He's done so many things for our school community. Obviously, being a committed coach for many years under Coach A, as well as the student athlete. So it's great to always see Bruins. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Coach Arculin. I mean,
Yes.
He did come when they played Menchville, but I had a prior commitment, couldn't be out there. But it's like clockwork. I mean, if we have a home game, 95% of the time he's in town and he carves out 2.5 hours
Yes.
to come support the Bruins.
And it's awesome. It's great. And, obviously Coach J is there as well. But to see someone take time out of their, retirement or out of their schedule to come and support not only, our student athletes, but the coaches, and you can't, I always tell guys, you can't fool a fool. You know what I mean? So a coach knows what it looks like from A to Z, from top to bottom. And again, another person that gives his endorsement and sees it, and just assures that we're in the right direction. And all those things are important. We can't please everybody.
Right.
But if you know the work that you put in, the hours you put in, and the development that comes with it on and off the field, the people who could recognize and see it, they see it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and and the funny thing is, I really didn't put two and two together, but him asking me where Roland was, and I noticed that somebody else was in the golf cart, and I think
Yes.
with Jake and Josh, being seniors, I think Coach Wright might have been at a baseball tournament, but Coach Arcula was like, "Hey, I don't see Roland. I usually say hi to him when I walk in."
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, he had a prior arrangement, and so he was missed Friday. But we all know it's for good reasons. Coach Wright has committed himself as well to so many young men, on and off the field, as well as our community and all of Chesapeake. So without a doubt, he was missing, but we found a way to go 1-0.
Right. And so let's switch here with JV. I mean, with the weather, when they were supposed to host Kings Fork, they made up this past Monday night. So, talk about Western Branch JV with a hard fought, close win against Kings Fork there on Monday.
Absolutely. One thing I would like to say is, shout out to Coach Thomas and our administration and all that agreed to allow that game to continue as a rescheduled game. One thing we've been preaching to our young men: if it's time left on the clock, you play the game. And you and I spoke before the show that we've seen a lot of football in the last 2 weeks where teams were up significantly, and the opposing team found a way to come back and go 1-0. And we knew that going into Monday. 7-0 lead at the end of the first quarter or midway through the first is not a lead, So 0-0 was the mindset. And West Branch ended up winning 13-6. Still had to close the game out. But at the end of the day, we taught our kids something. If you start something, you finish it. And, very proud of our young men that competed at a high level. It's great to see some juniors out there that are really, teaching our young Bruins how to be a Bruin. Tyson Holland runs very, very hard behind his pads, but he's also a varsity backup running back and a first-string kick returner on varsity on Friday nights. You got Timothy Pierce that is leading the charge at quarterback, just doing the little things that we need. And his development has been awesome to watch since the summer. You have Jaja Wilkins, another junior, just, again, competing at a high level. All these guys, are what we expected to get out of. Great leaders, like teaching young men how to be a Bruin. And not only that, but they're also executing on the field. When their time is called, their number is called. And we really appreciate that, 100%.
Now, since varsity has a bye and we're in the start of our district, JV has a bye
Right.
there tonight.
Yes, they do. Absolutely. And that was a sweet spot for us to be able to make it up and on Monday, because I believe had this been a normal week flow, Kings Fort JV would have played this Thursday, and then obviously varsity Friday. But with the incoming weather, everything's been moved up. But I'm not sure how they're going to handle the Kings Fort JV versus Nansman's JV as far as a makeup day.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that JV matchup, I mean that means that their varsity teams don't really remember who's hosting, but definitely Kings Fork Nansen River varsity here has shifted here to tonight.
Yes, that's been moved. Not sure who's the host,
Right.
but again, it's been moved up, and we talked about in our era how we played in rain, right, and things of that nature.
Right.
But with that is a major sacrifice too, right? A lot of things could go wrong, things of that nature. So technology and time is sped up to make sound decisions for our young student athletes to be able to compete. So, but to my knowledge, everything's been agreed to move it up to Thursday. And, may the best man win.
Right. And, the thing is, I mean, it kind of goes back here to when there's lightning in certain miles. I mean, I know that safety is certainly, stressed more here nowadays, than when we were growing up. And the thing is with high school sports, you want to have a great fan base. And
Right.
like this
Right.
week, I know it's a bye, but with the weather tomorrow and the other teams, I mean, there's a whole slew of games there here tonight. And if you can control it, and you definitely want to play better conditions, have more fans, than
Right.
back when we were growing up.
Absolutely.
And hey, you're playing unless it's lightning and thunderstorms.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say to you real quick, probably make you laugh. I'm not sure if you were a gamer back in the 90s, but John Madden always had thunder and lightning when it rained, remember? And Bill Walsh 95 as well, right? The weather didn't matter. So that kind of, I mean, they wanted to be as realistic. So for them to insert those type of inclement weather games and things of that nature, I mean, so that era was definitely different in the 80s, 90s, and way before that, I'm pretty sure. But, Again, I think it's about getting smarter, thinking about the greater good, and the fan base does want to come and support. So we got to also honor that when it comes to playing the game. That they are able to cheer on their team to victory. Absolutely.
Yes, and with being a gamer, I mean, when it was time to set up the game and you can control it, I
Yes.
know that my brother and I or my friends, 95% of the time we threw in foul weather.
Yes, love it. You know it. Absolutely. So I'm with you. I'm with you. Who was your team, Mark, back in the day?
Hey, the thing is, I always stuck there with the Seahawks, but before it was John Madden
Yeah.
football, I think it was Joe Montana
Yep. Yep.
football,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then you definitely remember Tecmo ball
Yes.
when it was just two running plays, two passing
Right.
plays. How about yourself?
Me, I was a 49ers, Washington Redskins at the time, now Commanders. Bill Walsh 95, I was a Florida Gator. I mean, it's just old school. With Tecmo Bowl, you had to go with Bo Jackson. He
Right.
was the cheat code.
That's
And the 49ers, Roger Craig and those guys. But we're really showing our age right now. But
that's right.
ultimately, it goes back to the original message of, just inclement weather, how we've all improved. And even at the pro level now, the game
Right.
has gotten better. We got smarter. We're starting to think about the guys that are competing on Sundays, sacrificing their body, all those things considered. So without a doubt, man, it's just good to see it get better. It's still a gladiator sport. It's still a sport that, you it's physical. It's the little things that come with everything. But, ultimately, again, going back to the original message, we got smarter. I think all of us have gotten better and gotten smarter to continue to grow the game. There you go.
Right. And something just to give a little highlight here to the feeder schools there to Western Branch. I mean, something new here in middle school this year has been the start of baseball. So has that pushed back the middle school football season?
I'm not quite sure. I know obviously it's been a new addition for, I believe, baseball. But right now, I can't answer that. But I can tell you is I'm excited to see these guys compete, to see our rising Bruins be able to compete. And, I can't wait till, I believe, Tuesday.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Because I know, to all the fans out there, middle school football doesn't start at least practice until school starts. So, games here will start going here as we get to the end of September, beginning of
Yes.
October.
Yes, and I believe it's been approved that they could start a week before school
Oh,
starts. I believe I might be wrong.
right.
And their first game is here at Western Branch. It's Jolliffe Middle School versus Western Branch Middle School on September 25th. I
Oh,
believe that's a
September
Tuesday.
25th.
I might be wrong, but yes, I think they had 1 week before school started to get prepared going into the opening day of school and all things considered. So I'm excited. Like I said, it's nothing like seeing your feeder schools compete and seeing the upside of rising Bruins that will be joining us within a year or so.
Yeah, and then another way that we show our age. I mean, there was just one
Right.
middle school feeder in the Western Branch, and I went up to a middle school basketball game pre-pandemic when Western Branch and Jolliffe, and
Mm.
I had to get there in the first game because the stands were packed there with rivalry of those two schools.
Absolutely. It's kind of neat to see, but our message when they come to Western Branch, we're all one Bruin.
Right.
Whether you're from Jolliffe or whether you're from West Branch Middle, we're all one Bruin. But yeah, it's good to see that. And they're very passionate. Their fan base for the middle school level is definitely passionate. They support their school and their area of Chesapeake, Virginia, and community. So without a doubt, I mean, it's all back.
Yeah, yeah, and the thing is technically since we had lightning delay and then the bottom drop the previous week out at Kings Fork, it's kind of crazy on how the schedule's been this year. That really last Friday was really our first full Friday night uh,
Yes,
game. You know,
absolutely.
not only first Friday night home game, but our next home game is homecoming, and I
Yes,
know that the '93, is looking to have a big crowd, and I know that your class is around the 25-year mark, so
yep,
maybe a big crowd, but it would definitely be nice to see some, Bruin football alums, Bruin alum cheerleaders, and other Bruin alum athletes come and bring their families there to the next home game.
absolutely. It's against our crosstown rival, Deep Creek.
Right.
It's going to be a fun week, if that makes sense, in regards to seeing alum come back and support the high school, and just all things considered. It's been a blessing to be a leader of this program, to say the least, and an alum of Western Branch High School, and then to see alumni come back and support our young Bruins, our current roster, and all things considered. So without a doubt, homecoming is early this year, but it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be awesome. Very competitive, though.
Right.
Taking nothing away from Deep Creek, but it's definitely going to be very, very fun. Absolutely.
And you know what? I'll have to keep an eye there on the visitors' sidelines, because probably with the tradition of Deep Creek Western Branch, and definitely with David Cox being the head coach and Ricky, helping them, and they were Bruin alums. I mean,
Yes.
I wonder if the Cox brothers and some other Deep Creek football alums will come out here for that homecoming game.
Right. Well, hopefully they're on our side
Right, right.
as
That's
Bruin
right. 'Cause
alums.
they just coached at Deep Creek. They're really
Right.
Bruin alums. And
Absolutely.
David
Absolutely.
did golf there in the Bruin football
There you
golf
go. No,
class.
I'm just kidding, but
Right.
I'm pretty sure. It'd be great to get those guys out. Obviously, our booster club have been promoting our golf tournament. Our second annual, and we're excited about that. And it's a lot of good things going on within our program that are really our booster club is tapping into our community.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome to see, and they're an extension of our program. So it'd be great to get as many people out. Hopefully, it's a beautiful, nice, crisp, but football weather Friday night, and obviously it's homecoming. So we're excited about that opportunity. But we got Nansman coming up next week,
Yes.
and that's got to be our sole focus. And sometimes that could be a challenge in itself, because the kids are looking so forward to homecoming, and all festivities leading into that game. So one message I shared that I learned from Coach Lou Anderson when I was at Virginia State, he always said that we're the entertainers on Saturday. So
Right.
we got to be perform. We got to be ready to perform. So our practice is so important, and that's the message I've always kept with me, and I've carried it throughout my coaching career. It's great that we have homecoming, but we got to
Yeah.
stay ready and prepared. So when we perform on Friday nights, it's a good, it looks good. Everything, all things considered, looks good. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the thing is, back to the booster club. I mean, they're doing a great job, and I definitely appreciate their. I didn't even realize that we were doing regular programs, because you go to a college game, you go to a pro game, everything's digital
Right,
nowadays.
right, right.
But there's with connecting with the community and promoting the football program, I definitely appreciate the
Yes,
Booster Club there with the full page ad.
yes.
And with technology, they even inserted a QR code that you can, do the QR code there with the cell phone camera and go right to the website
Come
here,
on.
and go right and catch the episodes.
Yes, absolutely. I spoke to Miss Higgins. Amanda Higgins is our Booster Club president. We had a conversation yesterday, or a brief meeting, and I was pleased. I told her, I said, those look like souvenir programs.
Right.
One that you will always be able to keep. have as a reference and all things considered, and its color. I
Right.
looked at some of mine from '97, and it's like black and white, a little bit of blue here or there, but without a doubt, it looks good. Definitely first class. It's great to see our community and our supporters want to be a part of that process and advertise things that they're doing. But yeah, it's awesome. Um, the other part I wanted to say was, again, just talking about our booster club, all the support that we need, all the support that we could get from our community. Miss Higgins is that point of contact. Amanda Higgins, and we got Ann Bartow. It's so many different components. Miss Applewhite, Miss Edwards, you name it. They're very sharp, and they do a phenomenal job, and they've been very supportive of my goal, vision, and path going into this season. And I just can't say thank you enough, without a doubt.
Yeah, and then also somebody that started being the PA guy when Coach Jay was the head coach, and I think his kids were part of the Marching Bruins. But Paul there with being a
Yes,
consistent, their voice at the PA, and hey, I certainly appreciate his shout out here with a timeout in the second quarter, and then a timeout in the second half. So, hey, word's getting out here about our weekly program.
absolutely. Thank you again, Paul Sumner. He does a phenomenal job on Friday nights, keeping the fans engaged and things of that nature. And, again, for you and your platform and how we've been able to build this over the last 3 years, it's only right. It's only fitting to make sure that the word is getting out that there's a weekly only high school head coach show for the West Branch High School and all things considered. But, Paul did a phenomenal job just in general, and each week that should be, at least echoed out there throughout times of the game. And it's authentic. We don't do this for anything but promoting our program, wins and losses. Wins and lessons happen.
Yes.
At the end of the day, each week we want to give our fan base, something to hold on to and something to understand the process as we go week to week, preparing our young men.
Yeah, and the two games that we had lessons against. I mean, Benedictine is having a great season there with their Division 1 private school. They're in the VISAA. That's the private school equivalent to VHSL, and and then Kings Fork. I mean, so two quality programs. That we had lessons, and definitely a good time here for our team here
Yes.
to rest up there tomorrow.
Absolutely. So, ideally, I think in the perfect world on a Friday, you want to go on a bye week and, scout a team or things of that nature. We'll probably end up doing that tonight, even the kids. But, at the end of the day, you can have an undefeated season in a weak schedule, or you can have, a few losses, a couple of losses, and that quality of opponent strengthens the schedule, but it also prepares your kids for playoffs when everybody's good. We got down to the 4 teams in the state of Virginia in 6A last year, not holding on to it because we got to move on and we share that. But, not too many high schools can say that every year. That they were the only 4 high schools, 6A high schools that played football, on Saturday or Friday night, Saturday, afternoon. So, it's not easy getting to that conversation, but when you prepare your kids well, it makes it a lot less difficult, if that makes sense, to be able to do it year in and year out. And I think some of the best schools in our state always challenge themselves against some of the other best schools in our state to see where their measuring stick is, and then they go from there. So that's what we did this year with the 2 non-district opponents, and we learned something from all of them. Even going in the Kings Fork game, we learned something coming out of it. But, very happy with our coaching staff, our kids, and we're ready to get back to football. I think the bye week, again, is all mental more than it is physical. And, when you know you don't have to really, really prepare for a Friday night. Keeping those guys disciplined and engaged, staying enthusiastic are key components to maintaining what you've created.
Yeah, yeah, and and back to the community, we brought up Coach Arculin and
Yes,
other people on this episode, previous episodes. I just want to highlight how recent recent family alums, and then further back, people come out to still support the
yes,
program. They might not
absolutely.
have a son or a nephew or a grandson or a granddaughter or daughter, out there between cheerleaders or football,
Right.
but just seeing the families continue to come back that were part of the program and still
Yes.
supporting the program at home games.
Absolutely, and that's what we want. It's Friday.
Right.
COVID took a lot away, and that's why I said we're back. It's back, right? People, even though COVID could still be around, the community has opened back up, if that makes sense. And football season is always special for so many in our community, along with other sports that compete in the fall. But it's just something about those evenings on Friday night, right? And the older you get, the more it's like a date night, indirect date night, as a seasoned alum. But, it's good to get them out. And ultimately, it's not about me or our staff. It's about these young men
Right.
and young lady that have dedicated themselves Monday through Thursday or Monday through Wednesday to be prepared to go and compete at a high level on Thursday nights for JV and Friday nights for varsity.
Yeah, you talk about a small world. I mean, the kicker on JV, her mom grew up with my sister, and I grew up with her uncle. So it's just another example
Yes,
here of Western Branch community having generation to
yes,
generation, and you run into each other now with being adults.
right.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely, absolutely.
So, but hey, Rashad, I definitely appreciate your time, and yeah, tell the. I mean, how's the Tuesday night talk? Going
Right.
on
So
here
Real
this
Talk
year.
Tuesdays, we
Real
should have a
talk Tuesday.
guest. Yep. Next week we're going to have a special guest. And again, it's not to rally the kids up for Friday nights.
Right.
It's to give them something to hold on to. Maybe it's a life lesson. Maybe it's I could put this in my toolkit of success, or toolkit or memory bank for if I ever need it. So we're cranking back up this Tuesday. Coach Thomas has a guest. Obviously, we would love to have you back, Mark.
Okay. All right.
We'll schedule something. Your people get with Coach
Yeah.
Thomas people. We'll work
Right.
it out. But ultimately, that's a resource. And again, I learned that from William and Mary. I don't want to act like I figured it all out and I'm the guy. But anything we could provide our young men that continues to help them mentally, physically, socially, and emotionally. I want to give that to our young men and young lady. But ultimately, we're back at it on Tuesday. It's been a huge success. There have been a whole lot of people who reached out and asked. So it's now about just getting the date scheduled and aligned up, so we don't have any conflicts, and we go from there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, Rashad, the awesome thing about this episode is, the night before, I always look at Elizabeth and I'm like, here it is, Wednesday evening, week gets by. Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and just text Rashad, give him a couple points. But, here it is. We knock it out of the park week in and week out here, 30 plus minutes. Sorry for going over, but definitely some great information here shared today.
Absolutely. It's an honor. I know this sounds cliche, but someday, it may be a new guy, in this position. But I don't take anything for granted. I really appreciate and value it. Adversity has been something that you see every day. It's just how you handle it. Sometimes it's a whole week of it, but it's how you go about it. So, for us, ultimately we want our kids to always win. We want our kids to go 1-0 all the time. But we understand that life is going to throw us some things that we got to learn from in order to get better. So I appreciate you, Mark. to allow this platform, allow me to share our story, give an inside look of how we go about what we do day in and day out. And ultimately, it's really just celebrating these young men.
Right.
It's really putting them on a pedestal of success that they deserve. It's one to be just a student, it's another to be a student athlete. And the extra hours that are taken away from instructional time in the evening, that you got to go the extra hour to get it done. And a lot of our young men get that done year in and year out. And I'm very thankful. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we ran out of time. I mean, so to all the Bruin alums that are playing at the next level, I mean, we'll definitely carve out some time here next week because there are a few programs that our Bruin alums are. Those programs are doing well there on
Yes, they are.
Saturday.
Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to Mossy Bruning. I believe in his first year of starting, had 8 tackles last weekend.
Nice.
So big shout out to him and Christopher Newport.
Right.
Just very pleased. And I think that'll be a great segue going into next week's episode. But Bruin Nation, I'm thankful for your time, your support of our program. Mark, thank you for this platform that Mike Sharp shared with you. And I don't take it for granted. Not at all.
Well, hey, and I definitely appreciate your time and definitely look forward to doing this week in and week out. And Mike Sharp, I mean, I think he's working there with Coach Thomas and Miss Williamson there with a '93
There you go.
reunion, and but Coach E and myself here. Here we are, fall of 2023, fall of '93. So 30 years ago from right now, we
Yes.
were just starting our senior year. So,
Absolutely.
time flies.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well,
I appreciate you for having me.
sure thing, Rashad. And fans, that was tonight's episode here with episode 5 here of Something Brewing with Coach Cook, and go Bruins.
Go Bruins.